Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we're discussing my personal favorite generation of the FP Journe Chronometre A Resonance. This is the watch that debuted back in 2010 and ran until 2019, sometimes known as the parking meter. I prefer to call it the winking watch because it looks like it is winking at you. And of course, we've got that quality of sort of a human face winking with a little smile, reminding you this is a resonance chronometer, and importantly, acoustic resonance, not a coupled spring. We'll talk about that in a moment. 40 millimeters in diameter in platinum. The watch is slim at only 9 millimeters thick and 48.1 millimeters lug-to-lug with a 20 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. Throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and it wears nicely. I could recommend this watch for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Here's your over the top, here's your cuff shot. It'll easily slide underneath a shirt sleeve or a jacket cuff, and then down the barrel, which gives the most definitive view of where the lugs are relative to the edge of my wrist. I have plenty of clearance. Got a lovely strap right here. As you can see, this one came from a collected man, buttery soft on the bottom with a sort of Epsom leather on the top, calf skin, a curved spring bar. You can see Journe cases always have lugs drilled very close to the case, so the pivot centers are far inboard and the watches wear fairly well on smaller wrists as a result. We have a monotone stitch, and then we've got a sheer cut side, lacquered for refinement, pull tab spring bar, so just like a Journe factory strap, you can pop the strap off without the benefit of a tool. A Journe pin buckle. You can see this one in platinum to match the case. And the case is a French-made Eleanor case. You know that because you could see the maker's mark of Eleanor, which was outside of Paris, and then the French double dog head hallmark for platinum. You can also see the Swiss St. Bernard dog head. There are 3 dog heads on this watch. I know in the past I've called all French hallmarks double eagle. They do have a double eagle for gold. It's a double dog head for platinum. And it's a little bit unusual to find this watch with an Eleanor-made case, because my impression is those were phased out starting in around mid-2008, and of course this model debuting in 2010, and the example in my hand being retailed in 2012. This may be one of the very last of the French-made cases to reach market. The watch is easy to wear and comfortable, largely because it is so thin and slim across the wrist, and it's rather amazing given how much is inside the case. And we may as well go through some of the basic functions and features here. A resonance chronometer is much like a series of pendulum clocks or metronomes in proximity, which will slowly synchronize to each other via a phenomenon called acoustic resonance. It's not magic. There are vibrations and parasitic losses emanating from the devices that cause them to synchronize to each other, and Journe has long sought a way of doing this with balance wheels. He started his research on this in the 80s, and he wasn't ready until the year 2000 to bring a product to market. And then there were several versions with symmetrical style dials, but this one makes the watch more useful as a true travel time watch, as we have a scrolling 24-hour display for your reference time zone, and then a 12-hour format, and these two things can be set separately. The dial is made of white gold with a nice matte finish. You can see that we also have polished steel bezels framing the time scales with silver, that is sterling silver, sub-registers that have been cut with pyramide and azurage, or a concentric pattern. You can also see the edges of these are also beveled nicely. Power reserve indicator. The way this works is that the watch is like a marine chronometer in that it represents the hours since it was last wound rather than the hours of power reserve remaining. And the reason for that is that a marine chronometer needed to be wound every 24 hours, exactly 24 hours after its last winding. So it was important to know how many hours since the last winding, and you would wind it when the power reserve indicator hit 24. So when you fully wind this watch, it indicates 0 or 0 hours since the last full winding. Resonance, acoustic resonance, takes about 7 to 10 minutes to synchronize the two sides of the movement. You can see that we have 2 power sources, 2 drivetrains, 2 escapements, and then 2 balances. And these things are adjusted using a little rack and a pinion. You can see the pinion there and the rack adjacent with a set screw that fixes this balance cock in position. And you can use your tools as an FP Journe watchmaker to tune the gap between these 2 balances until they do start to resonate. When they do, they will be beating in sync but in opposition. So if due to a position or due to a shake, one is caused to run slower, the other one will run more quickly. quickly and correct the others because their operation is always equal and opposite, and they are constructively coupled together. You can also see that the hairsprings are opposite in their orientation, further introducing factors that could cause mutual correction, such as equivalent but also opposite error. When due to position, one is caused to run more slowly and the other is caused to run more quickly, their synchronization will cancel out that effect due to the opposite orientation of the hairsprings and the opposite beat of the balance wheels, which are 3 Hertz, by the way. You can see the movement is entirely 18-karat rose gold. It's a massive watch with a gold dial, a gold movement, and a platinum case. It's all 30 meters water resistant. You can also see that it is 6-position adjusted, one more than a standard chronometer. Remember, COSC is a bare movement test to 5 positions. 40 pivot jewels. You can see this caliber 1499, meaning it's 14 French lean in diameter. 1999 was the year work started on the movement, and 3 means it's the 3rd revision of the type. They are physically large free-sprung balances that are highly shock tolerant because all the timing adjustments are done using the eccentric masses on the balance rims. Now, I mentioned this idea of acoustic resonance, and that means there is no physical gearing between the two sides, so they're not geared together, and there's no spring connecting, for example, the two stud holders like you would find on a Armin Strom mirrored force resonance. Journe would say that that is not acoustic resonance, and he's actually correct. This uses very subtle vibrations, sound, if you will, radiating out from the two escapements and the two balances, mutually synchronized by that effect and only that effect. The only thing they share is a common base plate and a 42-hour power reserve. Now back to the dial side, because it does take about 7 to 10 minutes for acoustic resonance to gain purchase on the watch, you will find that the seconds hands are not synchronized even though they are locked together by resonance. So there's a flyback action allowing you to quickly synchronize them, wait about 10 minutes, and then pull it. It's a crowd pleaser. Your friends will love it. And I realize there may be some questions about how that secondary dial works. What I'm going to do is demonstrate that, because I know some people are wondering, what does the scrolling time look like? You can see just like that, it's got a semi-jumping action for the hour and a scrolling display of the minute, and that's how that works. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.